The Prince and the Village Girl. Prince Adebayo, the only son of King Oluwaseun and Queen Amina, had grown up in a palace filled with luxury, yet his heart was empty. Despite all the jewels, lavish feasts, and grand celebrations, the prince often found himself yearning for something deeper, something more meaningful. The walls of the palace, adorned with gold and precious stones, seemed to suffocate him. He longed for freedom, freedom to live as a common man, free from the weight of his royal title. As the days went by, Adebayo began sneaking away from the palace. He would disguise himself in simple clothes and leave through secret passages, venturing out into the countryside. He was searching for something he could not name, but he felt it deep inside, a yearning for connection. One morning, he set out on a journey to a distant village at the edge of his kingdom. It was called Ayodele, a village known for its simplicity and hardworking people. He hoped that, in this village, he might find the peace and clarity that seemed to elude him in the palace. Ayodele was a stark contrast to the grandeur of the palace. The village was nestled between fields of green crops, with humble homes built from wood and thatch. Children ran through the streets, playing games with laughter that echoed through the air. Women gathered at the water well, gossiping as they carried baskets of food. The men worked the fields and tended to the animals, all moving with a sense of purpose and contentment. Adebayo wandered through the village, taking in the sights and sounds. He felt a sense of liberation, as though the heavy expectations of being a prince had lifted for the first time. He was just a man in a simple world, a world where people work hard and lived simply, yet found joy in the most basic things. As he walked deeper into the village, he spotted a young woman working in a garden, her hands busy pulling weeds from the rows of vegetables. She wore a simple dress made from woven cloth, and her dark hair was tied in a loose bun. Despite her humble appearance, there was a quiet strength in her demeanor. Adebayo couldn't help but stare. There was something about her presence that captivated him. The young woman noticed Adebayo's gaze and, with a friendly smile, approached him. "Is something the matter?" she asked. Adebayo, caught off guard, quickly straightened up. I was just admiring your garden. It's beautiful." "Thank you," she replied, wiping her brow with the back of her hand. "It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. I'm Amara, by the way." Adebayo, the prince introduced himself, feeling slightly nervous. Amara looked at him curiously. "What brings you to our village?" I'm just passing through. I've been traveling for a while," Adebayo answered. "I was hoping to rest for a bit." Without hesitation, Amara invited him to sit with her and share some of the food she had brought from the market. They sat on the edge of her garden, surrounded by the vibrant colors of the plants she had carefully nurtured. Amara offered him fresh bread and fruit, and they began to talk. As they spoke, Adebayo found himself entranced by Amara's stories of village life, how she grew up, tending to the garden with her family, how they celebrated harvest festivals, and how they supported each other in times of need. Her words were simple, yet filled with wisdom. For the first time in years, Adebayo felt as though someone truly understood him, not as a prince, but as a person. Over the next few days, Adebayo returned to the village again and again. He would find Amara in her garden or helping the other villagers with their work. Each time they met, their bond grew stronger. Amara was kind-hearted, always willing to lend a hand to those in need, and Adebayo admired her strength and resilience. He began to share more of his life with her, the pressure of being a prince, the loneliness he often felt in the palace, and his desire to find meaning beyond the title he had inherited. Amara listened patiently, offering him understanding without judgment. She spoke of her own dreams, of one day building a school in the village to teach children, of creating a place where everyone could learn and grow. As Adebayo spent more time with Amara, he realized that her simplicity, her kindness, and her joy for life were the things he had been searching for. In her presence, he no longer felt like a prince. He simply felt like Adebayo, a man who had found someone who saw him for who he truly was. One evening, the village held a grand feast to celebrate the harvest season. The villagers gathered in the town square, their faces glowing with joy as they shared food, music, and dance. Adebayo, who had become a regular guest at the village gatherings, was welcomed with open arms. This time, However, there was a noticeable difference. He was no longer just a stranger, but someone the villagers had come to know and appreciate. As the music began to play, Adebayo took Amara's hand and led her to the center of the square. The villagers watched, intrigued, as the prince, dressed in simple clothes, danced alongside the village girl. It was a dance of joy, of freedom, and of connection. Under the starry sky, Adebayo realized that this was the life he had been searching for, the life of simplicity, love, and genuine connection. In the days that followed, Adebayo felt torn. The king and queen, noticing their son's growing attachment to Amara and the village life, called him back to the palace. They reminded him of his duties as the future king and the responsibilities that came with being heir to the throne. At the palace, the king and queen had already arranged for Adebayo to marry a princess from a neighboring kingdom. As was the tradition, it was a match that would strengthen political alliances and ensure peace. But Adebayo could not ignore the love he felt for Amara. He found himself standing at a crossroads. On one hand, there was the future of the kingdom, his royal responsibilities, the throne, and the wealth that came with it. On the other hand, there was Amara, the woman who had shown him a world of kindness, simplicity, and love. Adebayo made his decision. He refused to marry the princess arranged for him, choosing instead to follow his heart. "I don't want to live a life of duty alone," he told his parents. "I want a life with Amara, a life that is true to who I am, not who the kingdom wants me to be." The king and queen, though initially shocked by their son's decision, saw the sincerity in his eyes. They realized that their son's happiness was more important than political alliances. After much discussion, they gave their blessing. Adebayo married Amara in a simple, yet beautiful ceremony. There were no grand palaces or royal feasts, just a gathering of villagers, family, and friends, who celebrated the love that had blossomed between the prince and the village girl. Together, Adebayo and Amara worked to improve the village. With their combined efforts, they built a school for the children, started new agricultural projects, and created a place where people from all walks of life could find peace and purpose. The couple ruled the kingdom, not from a palace of gold, but from a home built on love, humility, and service to others. They were loved not because of their titles, but because of the compassion and care they showed to all. And so, the prince and the village girl lived a life full of joy, purpose, and love, proving that true happiness comes not from wealth or power, but from living a life that aligns with one's heart.